Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, Jeremy Corbyn backs a devolution deal for Yorkshire, helping diabetes patients in Lincoln, and a horticultural project in Scunthorpe. And later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Audrey Dunne about a poetry and music event in Hull. And before that, Sally Vergette on the West Lindsey Churches Festival. The leader of the Labour Party has backed a devolution deal involving the whole of Yorkshire. Jeremy Corbyn says he's in favour of the plan, which would see some powers given to Yorkshire from central government under the control of an elected mayor. 18 out of 20 local authorities in Yorkshire support the so-called One Yorkshire model, which would see a directly elected mayor for Yorkshire by 2020. The bid called on the government to devolve responsibility and funding for matters including transport budgets, franchised bus services and adult skills funding, and create a Yorkshire Combined Authority. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive of the Hull and Humber Chamber of Commerce is in favour of the Greater Grimsby Town deal. Dr Ian Kelly says it'll offer opportunities to develop new schemes for Grimsby to thrive. The deal was set up in November last year to grow the local economy by more than £216 million per year, create more than 5,000 jobs and build approximately 7,000 new homes.
The key element, I think, is that it is a town deal, that the authority have done very well to get that high-powered group together to pitch in and lobby at a high level in Westminster and Whitehall. We're very impressed, and as I say, I'm going to talk to them over dinner in May and find out more about how we can support what I think is the prospect of some good cash from government if the lobby's right and they've got the right people, and then how, you know, we in the private sector locally can help with perhaps rather smaller schemes than Orsted or ABP may chuck in terms of how you can blend together the public and private sector investment to get the town really motoring, which is what it deserves.
And you can see that interview in full on tonight's Hot Topic tonight at 8:30 p.m. on Estuary TV. A horticultural project to give Scunthorpe a colourful lift will be unveiled this week. North Lincolnshire Council has invested £100,000 in the scheme to create Scunthorpe and Ashby in bloom. The local authority will help set up the group and provide new planters and hanging baskets to shops in the area for a small fee. A meeting takes place at the Civic Centre at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. Up to 30 GPs in the county are taking part in a pilot scheme designed to help diabetes patients. Lincolnshire Partnership NHS Foundation Trust is launching talking therapy sessions for people with diabetes who need additional support. The sessions are designed to tackle the effects of mental health related to the disease. Steve Skinner, the clinical lead for the talking therapies, says the scheme is designed to make the care more efficient.
We're looking to co-locate some of our therapists within GP practices alongside the diabetes care which they'll receive in order to try and improve access for patients with diabetes, to reduce some of the burden of having to travel long distances to get their care. It's one of the difficulties of having diabetes is that you have to attend multiple appointments, often located in different areas of the county. And one of the things patients have said to us is that it would actually help them to have all of the healthcare delivered in one place. So actually makes sense to bring things together a little bit, and it also means that their diabetes care and their healthcare talking therapies can be delivered in the same place. It's no more common than it is in any other county in the United Kingdom. One of the things around any long-term condition such as diabetes is that it often is very difficult for patients to be involved in talking therapies. One, because of the volume of appointments which they have for their physical condition, and also secondly, people don't always recognise that depression and anxiety is something which goes along and is very closely linked to having something like diabetes.
A service offering adults free health checks to spot the signs of high blood pressure and heart disease will be extended for the next 5 years across Lincolnshire. The NHS Health Checks programme aims to reduce premature deaths by providing proactive preventative checks to people aged 40 to 74 to assess their risk of heart or kidney disease, diabetes or stroke. Over 28,000 people in Lincolnshire received an assessment in 2016 to 17, with 1 in 12 found to be at high risk of cardiovascular disease. 1 in 10 was offered a statin, and 1 in 131 discovered previously undiagnosed diabetes. The service is designed to target people without a pre-existing medical condition who may otherwise fall through the net. The £3.5 million scheme comes into effect from the 1st of August. And today saw the official opening of the new endoscopy unit at Scunthorpe Hospital. The £1.6 million centre was opened by patient representative Mick Morgan, chosen because he worked with staff and the planning team on the development. And we'll have more on that story tomorrow. West Lindsey Churches Festival takes place next month, and over 2 weekends, 100 churches and chapels will be open to the public. So I'm joined now by Sally Vergette from Ryeby Church near Grimsby to tell me more. Sally, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in.
Nice to see you.
When will the Churches Festival be taking place?
It takes place over 2 weekends, the 12th and 13th and the 19th and 20th of May.
And that's sort of dividing the West Lindsey district up into two...
Yes, east-west.
Two provinces, I was going to say, which
Yes.
is an appropriately Episcopal phrase.
Yes, that's right, yes.
So which of those weekends is for the eastern half of the area?
The first weekend is going, the east side is going first this time, and the second weekend is for the west side of the county.
And what is it that we can expect from visiting these churches that we couldn't expect at any other time of the year?
Well, they'll all be open. So there's over 100 churches open this time, which is a record amount.
It's quite astonishing that there are 100 churches in West Lindsey.
Well, it is, yes, it is. So that's fantastic. It's the 22nd festival. And so these churches will be open, and they offer all sorts of different things. So there will be organ concerts. There'll be quiet churches where you can just go in and sit quietly. There are lots of breakfasts, well, one breakfast, but there's lots of lunches that you can have, like ploughman's soup, a lot of cake.
I don't associate eating breakfast with being in a church, I have to confess.
No, well, it's a bit unique. It sort of started off in a completely different church, and it was an idea that we took on. We weren't part of the festival then, but we now set up all down the aisle, and it's quite unique because people sit next to each other. They're not on little tables, so they all have to get on and chat, and it's quite different.
It's very sociable.
Yes, it is.
I do associate cake with churches for some reason, though.
Absolutely. There's a lot of cake. We get a lot of visitors who go from church to church, and you say to them, would you like a cup of tea and cake? And they say, actually, no, thank you. We're caked up. So we do get, yes, rid of that.
Tea and cake, especially the Church of England, runs on that, doesn't it?
It
but
does.
This isn't just Church of England. There are various other denominations.
Yes, there
involved.
are chapels, churches that aren't open normally because they are no longer cared for by the people in the village. But they are open on that weekend. So it's, you could just go along and you see they're all so very different. Some are relatively new churches, and some are very old, and they have lots of different architecture. And some are really quite stunningly beautiful.
Well, I'm not a particularly religious man, but I'm absolute church snob, and frankly, anything built after about 1066, I think is a bit of a Johnny-come-lately.
Yeah.
We are lucky in
Yes.
Lincolnshire, and we are lucky just to have 100 churches in West Lindsey.
Yes.
But there are some of the really old ones, are spectacular, aren't they? The Anglo-Saxon and the early Norman churches.
Yes, there are, and there are different aspects of them. I mean, a lot of them have been rebuilt, sort of maybe in Victorian times, but there are still bits. Say the tower will still be old, or the doorway. There's an old doorway or an old font, or different parts of the church will still be there that are much older than the current building that they're in.
Always absolutely fascinating, living history, really, in the sense that there's still buildings doing a job.
Absolutely, yes, and I think that people are trying to move on with their church, and they're trying to open it up for new things. A lot of them are doing sterling work, really. And I think it's over 700 volunteers will be working to keep these churches open, particularly for this. And
Now, why is it? It's a bit sad. It's wonderful that this weekend is available, but it's a bit sad that the churches are closed all the rest of the time. And is this simply because of security? People come in and nick candlesticks and lead tiles off the roof?
I think that has been the case. There are churches who are open. There are some that are open all the time. There are some that are open in daylight hours, and there are some, sadly, which are closed more often than they should be. Our particular vicar that we've got is actively encouraging our church to stay open.
Just don't leave your valuables around.
Yes, that's right. Don't leave your valuables out.
You mentioned daylight hours as well. Also worth thinking about that Lincolnshire has fantastic stained glass.
It does. Wonderful stained glass, and a lot of it is the focus this year for the festival is on World War One.
Of course.
The 100 years since the end of World War One.
And the RAF.
And the RAF. And so there's some wonderful stained glass windows.
Is there a website or something people can go to get more information?
There is, yes. churchesfestival.info. And there's a lot following on Twitter and on Facebook. There's a Facebook page.
Okay.
So that there is, a lot of information
Sally,
out there.
I'm sure it'll be a wonderful couple of weekends. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Join me after the break. Jack will bring us a roundup of all the weekend sports results, including the thoughts of Grimsby manager Michael Jolly, and I'll be talking to Audrey Dunne about poetry and music. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the weekend sports results, including the thoughts of Grimsby manager Michael Jolly, and I'll be talking to Audrey Dunne about poetry and music. East Lindsey District Council will buy a site used by gypsies and travellers in Mablethorpe. Members of the council's executive are set to agree the purchase of land on Seaholme Road from Anglian Water at a meeting on Wednesday. The land was transferred to Anglian Water back in the 1970s. The 8 plots accommodate the travelling community which works on the coastal amusements in the summer months. The council has an obligation to provide sites for gypsies, travellers and show people through its local plan. East Lindsey hopes to secure it for the future use of show people living and working in the district. The University of Hull's Energy and Environment Institute director has been chosen to chair a group researching the mounting global issue of plastic pollution in the environment. Professor Dan Parsons will chair the group for the Natural Environment Research Council to develop a science case for a potential strategic research programme on tackling plastic waste. Around 7,000 million tonnes of plastic rubbish has been generated since plastics were first mass-produced in the 1930s, and an estimated 15 million tonnes of plastic waste enters the oceans every year with significant environmental costs. Classically Yours, a music partnership between Orchestras Live and East Yorkshire Council, has been shortlisted for an award. The partnership will vie with the Royal Philharmonic Society Music Award for audiences and engagement. The category recognises organisations or individuals who attract new audiences to classical music. Classically Yours set out to persuade rural and coastal communities that classical music is not just for the big cities. Footways in several parts of north-east Lincolnshire are to be resurfaced during the next few weeks. Footways in Grimsby, Aylesby and Immingham will be resurfaced using a process known as slurry sealing. That involves laying a slurry, a mix of bitumen, emulsion and chippings, onto the footway in order to seal the surface and prolong its lifespan. Now take notes. The mix dries quickly and pedestrians can usually walk over it half an hour later. Work starts on Monday the 16th of April and is expected to take 6 weeks to complete. That is, work started on Monday the 16th of April. Now, Audrey, I'm joined by Audrey Dunne, poet of Hull, greatest poet of Hull, really, and you are organising a wonderful occasion of poetry and music. First of all, you better tell me where and when.
It's at the Charter House, which is an ancient old building going back almost, I think, Henry VIII. and a very beautiful building, and it's quite a new venture for them. So they've got a lovely hall called the Castleton Hall, named after a Hull councillor, of popular councillor, and so it's going to be a nice occasion.
It will be absolutely beautiful, I suspect. Just to clarify, that's on Charterhouse Lane in Hull, and the date is the 18th, so that's a couple of days' time, on Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
2 o'clock, and good parking in Sykes Street, which is kind of all one with Charterhouse.
You are very practically minded for a person of such poetic disposition.
Oh, I
Audrey.
can be very practical.
Now, it'll be you reading some of your old and new poetry?
Yes. One particularly new one about Philip Larkin's vest that was in an exhibition recently.
Philip Larkin's vest. Okay.
As practical as you can get,
I think you can get a great deal of amusement out of that. Would you be kind enough to give us one of your poems?
I will. This is from the first collection I did, short collection, and Estuary did me very well and recorded 12 of these poems.
Well, they were beautiful poems. I remember them well.
Yes, they were done very well. I mean, the readers were marvellous. This is called Mud Flats, and it's for anybody who knows these parts and the estuarial silence of the waters of the Humber. Mud Flats. The last dog barks, dark against the setting sun, and a child's voice cries above the coming night. Gone, it cries, gone is the day. The last bird flies, the last rat runs to beat the tide. A stone rattles, a reed bends, and over there, the far-off bark of the dog.
Audrey, absolutely exquisite. Thank you so much. Beautiful poem, beautifully read as well. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So that's the sort of thing we can expect on Wednesday evening at the Charterhouse in Hull.
Wednesday afternoon.
On Wednesday afternoon, I beg your
Yes.
pardon. There will also be music. Claire Holditch will be playing the flute.
She's a marvellous flute player. She's very good. She's from Hull University. You know, she was at Hull University and did very well.
She can keep a tune, can she?
Oh, she can certainly keep a tune, yes. She's very good indeed.
Will that be accompanying you as you read, or will that be
Well,
separate
it's sort
performances?
of a poem and a piece of music and some lovely pieces and popular classics kind of thing, you know.
Entrance is free and there will be food and drink, or there will be refreshments.
Well, the people from the Charterhouse, the staff there, are kindly doing cups of tea and biscuits, so
Okay.
that will be nice in the middle somewhere.
Now, you have a publication planned for later this year, a new slim volume of poetry, as it were.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What's that going to be?
Well, that's a little bit different from my other ones, as it's poetry and prose in the way of... now then, I don't know if you've come across Matsuo Basho.
Of course, I think we all have, Audrey.
Oh, you do? Oh, good. But he's the master of haiku, and so it's kind of Japanese style, but it's a very whole poem. And it's called Autumn Walks in Queen's Gardens, which is in the centre of Hull, made from an old dock, of
And
course.
haiku, of course, is a very disciplined structure of poetry.
Now,
that they
you
use in
tell
Japan.
me what it is.
I think it's 7 syllables, 5 syllables and 7 syllables.
Very good. Very good.
When can we expect that book to be published?
September. Watch out for September.
Okay,
and I
Audrey.
hope at Cardoma 94, who always do well for me in this.
Okay, that's Charterhouse on Wednesday afternoon at 2
Yes.
o'clock to get your reading. Audrey, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Hugh.
Here's Jack with all the sports news.
We'll start in the Championship, where Hull City fell to a disappointing defeat to Sheffield Wednesday at the KCOM Stadium. The Tigers lost 1-0 on Saturday as they missed the chance to make themselves mathematically safe from the drop. Jordan Rhodes hit the winner for Wednesday, heading home on 18 minutes. City thought they'd levelled late on, but Abel Hernandez saw his effort ruled out for offside. That defeat sees Nigel Adkins' side drop down to 18th in the table, with the club sitting 9 points above Barnsley, who occupy the final relegation spot. On to League One now, and it was a much better weekend for Scunthorpe United. The Iron won 1-0 away at promotion-hunting rivals Charlton Athletic to register first win in 11 games. Ivan Toney was the match winner, tapping home a neat Hakeem Adelakan cross on the half-hour mark. That victory at the Valley is Nick Dawes' first win since taking the helm as interim manager alongside Andy Dawson. More importantly, that result moves United back into the playoffs. They're up to 5th in the table, leapfrogging Charlton, who dropped down to 8th. Meanwhile, in League Two, Grimsby Town came from behind against Barnet to rescue a point in an entertaining encounter at Blundell Park. The Mariners had led after just six minutes when Danny Collins slotted home from a corner. However, fellow strugglers Barnet fought back to lead 2-1, thanks to former Mariner John Louis Akpro and Curtis Weston. The drama didn't end there, though, as substitute Simeon Jackson was bundled over in the area, with the referee awarding Town a late penalty. Mitch Rose then struck home from the spot for the second game running to give Grimsby a crucial equaliser in their battle to avoid the drop. After the game, I asked manager Michael Jolly whether he thought his side stood up to the physicality of Barnet.
I think in the first half we did well with that. I think second half they made some changes, and sometimes when you make changes they work and sometimes they don't work. I mean, we had at least one good chance to try and go 2-0 in the second half, which we didn't take, and then they had a period where they did get on top of us and forced us back. So then we responded with some changes of our own and we managed to get back into the game. So honours even in that respect.
And following that result at Blundell Park, Grimsby remained 5 points above Barnet in 22nd place. Town are 7 points clear of Chesterfield, but the bottom place side still have 2 games in hand over the Mariners. And last but not least, in Rugby League, Hull Kingston Rovers fell to defeat away at Warrington Wolves. The Robins lost by 40 points to 26 in Cheshire on Saturday, despite attempting a second half comeback. Wolves had led 22-2 at half-time, but Rovers rallied with tries from Maurice Blair, James Donaldson, Chris Atkin and Danny Maguire. However, it wasn't enough as Warrington recorded their 6th consecutive Super League victory, while KR stay in 10th place. That's all from me in the sports. Back to Hugh in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jack. That's it for tonight, I'm afraid. If you've a news story for us or any other reason to contact us, then Facebook and Twitter are suggested below me, or email news@estuary.tv, or phone Grimsby 01472315553, or write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN 34 5BQ. Until tomorrow, good evening.